Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Again, thank you so much for joining us on the webinar here today. My name is Dennis Smeltzer. I'm the president of TSANet. I've got with me Stephanie Benson, who's over in the UK, and we're going to walk through just a few slides with you, give you kind of a short demo. This has actually turned out to be one of the more popular webinars that we do, and I think it's largely due to, one, the organization is growing. We're now pushing almost 700 members that are part of TSANet. And there's also a lot of existing members that you have, new people coming into the support department that maybe have heard of TSANet but didn't really know what it is. And so this turns out to be a really good webinar to kind of explain about what TSANet is and how you use it. It's kind of especially important now because we've just moved to this new collaboration platform called TSANet Connect. And about half the members have migrated over. So I'm going to go through that and explain that a little bit. And you'll find it very easy to find out whether you are on this new platform or not. We're moving people over to it as much as we can, and hopefully the goal is to have everybody over by the end of the year. But let me walk through kind of some basic slides with you and talk about this. Again, I always start this out with the fact that we're an organization. We were set up as a not-for-profit back in 1993, with the whole idea being that we as an organization would be serving the industry in setting up collaborative relationships. And that's really what we focus in on. We're not in this as a company selling you a product or trying to do that. We're actually a very member-driven organization. And as you can tell, we've got a lot of the industry is part of this. I work for a board of directors. That board is elected by the membership. And that's the way that this has been set up and has always operated that way. So it is a vendor neutral model. It's a not-for-profit model. What we really provide, if I was to try to do the elevator pitch about TSANet, is we really offer two things. One of them is we got all these big companies' legal teams to agree to a common set of verbiage about how you're going to handle confidential information between you when you're collaborating with each other. So we've formed that into what we call a code of conduct, and every member signs the same code of conduct. Now, you can have, and we'll talk about this, you can have different types of relationships with different support elements in that. But as far as everybody being under one base legal structure, this code of conduct and the database and license agreement are agreements that every member agrees to without exception, and no one can modify those agreements. So it establishes that base level. And then as we go in to build a more tactical piece of a relationship that gets into the relationship elements as response times and things like that, we actually refer to those as addendums. And that gets into the details about the relationship itself, but it is on top of this layer of this code of conduct that everybody signs. So that's the one piece that we do. It makes it very easy to establish relationships, is what the bottom line is. And then the other piece of this that we do is we provide this tactical interface. So it gives everybody one place to go to see how they're going to engage these other member companies, and it establishes that endpoint between the two of you. So you're going to see how that works. That's where we get into this TSANet Connect piece of it, which we'll go into some level of detail. But that should establish some kind of a base level to understand what the organization is. This is what I call my See Jane Run slide, which is kind of gives you the idea of when this is used. And by the way, I'll tell you right now, this is a very low volume thing. It is really when partners need to collaborate with each other because they can't figure out whose problem it is. So that's what we're trying to illustrate here is you've got typically a mutual customer out there between the two of you. You're working the issue. These are ones that don't happen every day, but when they do come in, it can be very frustrating for the customers because they may have been finger pointed around. So you're working the issue. You've reached the point to where you can't even isolate the problem, let alone resolve it unless you can work with the other partner. So you now have a framework to work that, which is what we'll walk through. And the idea is not to finger point that customer around. So Typically, and we'll talk about the relationships, typically there is what we call a mutual customer involved, and that usually is an entitled mutual customer. So the other question I get is, oh, this is going to increase my call volume and that kind of thing. Well, in that kind of environment, you're getting the phone call one way or another. So what TSANet is doing is that you're getting that phone call from one of your partners that your customer called first. And you're not obligated to work that issue unless it is one of your customers that's entitled for support. So there's no revenue loss or anything like that. That's really typically the whole basis behind the TSANet organization. This breaks it down a little bit into the membership categories. Most companies will come into this environment that we call open groups. It's actually how we started the organization. This has kind of morphed itself into the basic and the premium TSANet. So there's about 100 companies that are involved in the basic TSANet. And this becomes what we call a many-to-many group relationship. So you can join into this group, and what it does is it's an easy way for you to establish a relationship with a bunch of companies without having to do separate one-to-one relationships. So this establishes a base level relationship. It does require that there's a mutual customer involved in it. So there has to be what you would define as a mutual customer before you're obligated to resolve that problem. And then what happened was within the basic TSANet, we split it up into what we call the premium TSANet. So the premium TSANet is a subset of the basic TSANet that says within that group of companies, hey, if I've got a customer that's entitled at a higher level that is entitled to 24/7 support or global support, I'll collaborate with you at that higher level within these base level SLAs. And it's typically what you would call your enterprise level SLAs. So 2 hours in a priority 1, 4 hours in a priority 2, next business day in a priority 3. So premium members actually have an obligation from other premium members that where there's a customer entitled at that level, that there will be a higher level of response. But they're still within this many-to-many open group environment and where that mutual customer is defined. And so what happened after many years of this going on within TSANet, the members came back to us and said, well, that's great. It solves most of what I need with my partners. But in some cases, I need something a lot more strategic than that. And so I want to be able to pull in partners and create a different kind of relationship. Maybe I've already predefined that there is a mutual customer there, so I don't need to go through that step because I'm working with these partners in a solution support environment. We've already decided that. We already know that if we've got these customers in this environment, that they've already purchased support, so we don't need to go through that step. Or maybe I've got a partner program where I just want to establish at a support level that once this product is out of development and now it's out in the production environment, that if I run into an issue, I need to make sure that I have got some kind of support collaboration path with my partners that doesn't have anything to do with development. That now I might get a phone call, and if I don't have a way to get a hold of them in the support environment, I could be putting that customer in jeopardy of getting finger pointed around, and I don't know how to help them because I don't understand this product real well. So I need to establish that path. So the bottom line is what we did was we allowed our members to use the same infrastructure as far as the legal framework and the operational framework, but to create their own relationships. And this is to be referred to as custom groups as well. So we've allowed our members to go back in and host their own agreements, pull those companies in either into more strategic relationships or partner programs to be able to establish that relationship. A lot of our members come into what we call a partner group, and they become a limited member, which means they have a one-to-one relationship with the host. And from the host perspective, it's a one-to-many relationship with them. And a limited member is someone that comes in that, again, only has that single relationship, and they pay a very small fee, or actually in a lot of cases, they're what we call host paid, where the host member company is actually paying for their membership. So those are kind of the different levels. There is a lot of I'll say hybrid between the two of them. A lot of the open group members, and in fact, you have to be an open group member in order to host one of these custom groups or set up one of these strategic relationships. So there are a lot of companies that are premium members that use TSANet in a lot of different ways. But that's kind of the basics of the membership level behind it. And I want to move into the more tactical piece of it. Will give you an idea of actually how it works. And this is kind of an overview of this new TSANet Connect process. And to give you some kind of context in here, the way that it had worked in the past was we were providing a directory. So you would go into TSANet, you would pull up what we called a contact process, and it would basically tell you this is how you should collaborate with this other company. And what we've done is we've moved to something a little bit more of a form-based system. And what it does is it gives it a little bit more accountability behind it. It also gives our member companies a lot more metrics behind it, because now what we're doing is we're actually establishing this connection path between the two member companies so that we can give you a lot of data behind it. Now, you'll see here what we're not doing is we're not capturing the information. It is not a CRM system up into itself. What it does is it's a form-based system where you go into a directory. You need to collaborate with another company. A form is going to come up. That form is either going to go in or create a case in a CRM system at the receiver end, or it's going to go to an alias and they're going to respond back to that. And once it's been responded back to, in other words, it's been acknowledged that, yes, I understand you want to collaborate with me, and yes, I understand there's a mutual customer, then basically TSANet is out of the process. So we're not capturing any data after that point. That makes the whole data protection issue, the whole GDPR stuff, becomes not an issue for us, because what we're doing is we're just saying, yes, we understand that you want to request support from this company. That other company is coming back saying, yes, I understand and acknowledge that you want to do that, and this is how we're going to collaborate. We're collecting that piece of data, and that's all we're collecting. And I'll show you exactly how that works. Okay, but a couple of key points in that, just so everyone understands, right, of what we are capturing and what we're not capturing. So I kind of want to walk you through that, and then I'll give you a real tactical view of it. We'll actually go in and show you what it looks like. So on the sender side, say I am someone that is creating a support request from another company. I'm going to go into TSANet Connect. Now, a real easy way to tell you whether your company is migrated over is that every company that is now on the new TSANet Connect platform will go to connect.whatever their company is, .tsanet.org. So if you're in that platform, everybody has their own login page where it's very easy for them to either get a link, or if they've already got a user account set up, they would get into their personal, their company's TSANet Connect page. Then they would go in, they would find their partner, and if they want to select, you see it's very easy for them to set up favorites. If they're using this account where they just get a link, they can come in, they can easily set up their own account if they want to do that, or if not, they don't have to do it. The link is good for 30 days, but it must be tied into the member company's domain. And then whoever they select, it's going to come up with this process form. And this is that email form that I was talking about, and I'll actually walk you through this a little bit, but basically it's going to pre-populate your information here as far as your name, obviously your email address, phone number, which is important because it could be that company coming back to you may say, I'm going to call you to work this issue. So it's important that information be in there and that it also be correct, right? Because in this case, the member company that you're requesting support from, the customer has already called you, so you would put in what your case number was. And that's important because that's going to be important for the metrics to be able to go back and look at the case issue. You'll put in a brief problem information, a brief problem description. There's no log files, nothing like that we're capturing in any of this. And then you're putting in the common customer information. So who is that mutual customer that we're talking about here? And then you would come down and you would select the priority of the call, And the priority will be based on the relationship that you're a part of. So in any TSANet relationship, we're defining what the SLAs are. The SLA, you may very well come back and work the issue in an SLA that the mutual customer is entitled to, but there are some base level SLAs that TSANet defines in the relationship that you're a part of. The other piece that I'll cover in here is, and I'll give you an example of this, if you're a basic or a premium member, you're going to set up this form that is coming inbound into you, either into your CRM system, or it's coming in as to an alias that's going to be responded to. If you're a basic or a premium member, you can actually set up custom forms in here. So you can come in and set up a custom field that might have a product. It could have a customer account number, any of that kind of stuff that's required for you to actually create a ticket or information that you need to have. You have the ability to not only set up custom fields within your form, but you can also actually set up multiple custom forms. So if you had a relationship where you knew that you needed to capture this information, you could do that. Okay, but this is what we call an inbound process form. So once I've submitted that ticket, then as the engineer, I'm going to get back an email that validates that, yes, I submitted that ticket to this company. And the information that they submitted on that form is going to come through. It's also going to come through with escalation information if you don't get a response back. So if the receiver of that ticket doesn't respond back to you, then you get escalation information that says this is what you should do if you don't get a response back. Okay? So very simple kind of process here. Now on the receiver side, so the person receiving the ticket, they're going to get an email that comes in with that information that was with the submitted request. And then it typically in this scenario, what I'm doing is it's not going into a CRM system, but it basically is going into an alias that's being monitored, and people can come back and then respond to that ticket. And they will get a form like this, which says, okay, now I acknowledge that there's a support request. I acknowledge that customer is one of our customers. It's a valid customer, and I'm going to work the issue. Now we're going to talk about how we're going to work that issue. So I'm going to give you my case number because I know it's a valid case. I'm going to give you the assigned engineer that's going to work it, a little information about that. And this could be, if it goes into a queue or something like that, it could be that it's not assigned at this stage, right? But then you can come in here and give special notes. It could be that I want to work this issue by open up a Slack channel. So here's a link to that, or a Microsoft Teams or a WebEx or whatever it happens to be, or I'm going to call you. However you determine that you want to work this case is up to the receiver. And so you will go back and say, this is how I'm going to work the case, submit that ticket back. And from a TSANet perspective, we've connected those two endpoints, and now we've recorded the fact that there is a ticket that was submitted and acknowledged. We will delete anything that has to do with a mutual customer, and we will record that ticket number on the opening side from the sender sending in and the receiver sending out. And that way you could go back and get data from the reports and tie that into your CRM system and be able to pull all sorts of different metrics on response times from your partners, all sorts of different things. But from a TSANet process, basically, again, we've connected those endpoints and we're out of it from this stage. And I think that's probably, I'm going to go back. This would be one other thing. I want to go back and give you kind of a real life view of this. But basically, there's a lot of information that we put out there on TSANet Connect, and you can get that from our website at tsanet.org. And before we close it out, let me give you just kind of a real life example here. I'm not going to submit a ticket because in this case, we don't want to really do that. But I'm going to go in here, and I've logged in as what I call test company here. And again, this is that page. If you're an administrator, there is a menu up here that you can go in, and this will give you information about your company, users that you have in there. You can view your inbound process form. If you're part of different partner groups, you can do that. And if you'll be able to go in and look at the cases that have been submitted and be able to pull that data that I was referring to. But from a perspective of just getting hold of another partner in this particular group I'm in, I'm going to use VMware as an example. I can come down here. It's this predictive text kind of thing. I can click on VMware, and it's going to come in just like I showed you before. There is some internal notes here. If I wanted to put that in, I could do that as an administrator. It's pre-populated this information in here. I would put in my test company number, whatever that happened to be, put in the problem information. And here's what I really wanted to show you was, in this case, VMware has said, well, on the inbound side, that form that's coming in, whether it's coming in to create a case in my CRM system like a Salesforce or Microsoft Dynamics, or if it's coming in just to be monitored in a distribution list to that alias it's coming in, I want to know what the product line is. So they've created this custom field, and they come in here and you can select that. Then they've actually cascaded it into this. So when that form now comes in, this data is also going to come in as well, right? Come over here, put in the common customer information. This is an optional field, but if I found out that the customer already had a ticket open with VMware, I could ask that customer what the case number is, and that would alleviate a lot of problems. No, the customer's already entitled, obviously, but as an engineer on the receiving side, I could go back and look at that case history and then come back and say, okay, now I know why we need to collaborate, and this is where I think we need to head with it. Again, I'd select the priority. This is going to be, again, based upon the relationship that you're a part of from a TSANet perspective. And then it will predefine what that response level is, and then I would submit that ticket. Now, the other piece that I didn't show here is that, so not only are we sending that ticket out, and then there's acknowledgement that that support request came in, but if the ticket is not responded to within the SLA, it will automatically send an email to a predefined escalation contact to say, hey, you did not respond to that ticket. It also gives us, from the TSANet side, an opportunity to act as kind of a medium here, saying, hey, looks like we've seen some tickets that have come in that are not being responded to. What's going on here? Try for us as an organization to kind of intervene to make sure that the tickets are being responded to in a timely fashion, or at least within the time frame that the companies agreed that they would work. So that's pretty much it. I mean, I went into a little bit of detail here, but as you can see, it's really a pretty simple process. But that's pretty much it from a TSANet perspective. Let me go back to my slides here, and I'll pull this back up. If you have any questions or anything like that, again, this is going to be recorded, and we will send it out to anybody. I'll give everybody just a minute if there's any questions that come up, and if not, we'll let you guys have a little bit of time back. We used up almost 30 minutes. Stephanie, anything you want to add to that?
Can't think of anything, Dennis. I shall be taking note of who joined and who was unable to make it to the call today, and I will be sending out the recording as soon as we've got it sorted for you guys.
All right, very good. And very typical, we don't have any questions. So thank you so much for coming into this webinar. Again, if you've got any questions regarding TSANet or TSANet Connect, don't hesitate. That we are here to serve you. This is your organization. Membership at tsanet.org is probably the best way that comes into all of us here on the staff, and we will respond back to you. So again, everybody, thank you so much for coming in this morning. Appreciate it. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.